Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I am Brigid Burke and it is now the 24th of December. And I know it seems really, really dark in here, but let me see if I can get some more light here properly. Good morning, Alex. I'm adjusting the lighting here because it seems extra dark. It is cloudy out today. And good morning, Joanne. It is really dark out today. And, because it's snowing this morning, actually. For those people who like the whole white Christmas thing, this is very, definitely fits the kind of Currier and Ives postcard kind of thing. Maybe not quite that much snow, probably thankfully for people. But they were saying coating to an inch maybe here. And good morning. Yes, Joanne is saying it's fluffy out. And indeed it is. I don't know. It's very, it's very pretty. It's very wintry this morning when I got up. And I woke up early. You got 6 already. 6, is 6 the temperature where you are? Or is it, not sure which one that is, but in any case, yeah, I was up early and I showered this morning. 6 inches. Oh, got it. Okay. Wow. Okay. You're getting a lot of snow. We might get another inch here. Which, for everybody who has to travel for the holidays, that's probably a better thing, but, 6 inches of snow, you probably should have, snow tires or chains or something, like, I don't know. I'm sure that they maintain the road very well up there. Everybody, depending on what the normal amount of snow is for a different area, I find that like upstate New York, New England, and into Canada, that the way that they keep the roads is some of it's just to me crazy to me how they're able to do it with all of that snow. But hey, and they look at us and they're like, oh, you guys can't handle 10 inches, so. But then there's other places, like I think about being in England and. Literally like 2 inches of snow like just stops everything. Just like, and the grit that they use on the ground is like really slimy. Plows haven't even come out yet, you're saying. Well, yeah, it's probably, I don't know what the expectation was or how they're doing it. I know in my town, they're pretty good about coming out. They usually would have been out already, but they may just have been assuming it's not much. And it is going to warm up. So for us, certainly, I think that's going to definitely probably affect it because I'd already put salt down and stuff to probably just let it melt on its own. I did have a little bit of an incident yesterday. Those of you who might have followed the, not here, they Slack. Oh, well, could be. Yeah, I mean, you never know with the areas that you're in. So yesterday I had an incident because I told you it was really cold. I think it actually, in spite of what my phone said, your town is known for crap roads. Yeah, ours is actually pretty good. I mean, they're not great in certain other things, but certainly in terms of keeping the roads, I have to say that is something they do. Even though I live on a little side road that everybody forgets about for everything else. So in any case. Yesterday I had an incident. We know it got down really cold. It got down to like 1 degree or something like that. And I thought it was like 8 because my phone said it was 8 degrees. But then when they kept readjusting the temperature, saying, no, it got down to 2. Never mind, it got down to 1. And our gas company is not prepared for these kinds of things. I have to talk to my nephew because my nephew is one of the people who services, and he does kind of an engineering job, but he services the gas pipelines in Southern California, and I want to ask him about what how gas is supposed to how the natural gas pipelines work. Like when you have a gas in community to heat your houses, how does that? I know that the meter itself is something that brings the pressure down to like 6 inches or whatever. Like there's a measurement that they have for it, so that when it goes into your furnace, that you don't have a massive explosion with all this thing and this big conflagration. It's supposed to keep it within a certain range. But occasionally what happens is the pressure drops. And that's what happened yesterday. The pressure dropped. I had finished our live stream. I was doing something up here. It stays fairly warm upstairs. So I went downstairs. It was ice cold. And I looked and I'm like, it's 3 degrees below what it's supposed to be, and it says system heat, but when I put my hand on the heater, there was no heat coming out. I had a few choice words. So, but I know what the fix is in this case. I went down to the basement, I flipped the boiler off, waited, flipped it back on, and then of course I have one of those delayed thermostats, probably as an extra safety to not have an explosion. You know, when the gas pressure comes back, it allows the pressure to reset, and then it starts the boiler. And it did. You know, I went downstairs and watched it. The boiler came back on. It did everything it was supposed to do. And I'm going to check it this morning. But this happens when it gets super, super cold. Even though I have done everything I can to try to insulate everything, because I have an old house and there's some drafty places. I always put, blankets over things and I try to insulate. When the pressure drops, the boiler just, it gets hung. And it's not, it's trying to restart itself, but it doesn't do it. And like I said, it's a safety. And I was so furious yesterday because I've spent a tremendous amount of money on a new boiler because I assumed, okay, the old boiler, it was too big for the house. That's why the gas pressure kept dropping because it wasn't right. No, this one sized properly, and I've had 2 winters where I didn't have a problem, but I think there's something they must do in adjusting the flow from the street in other words, there had to have been an interruption in the flow so that it didn't get to my meter, so that it didn't get to my boiler. And whenever I call the gas company, they're always getting, oh no, it's nothing. And they talk to me like I'm an idiot, which annoys me. I'm like, I am not an idiot. There is something that happens, and it always happens between 7 and 8 in the morning when it's going to happen. So there's something they're doing in their process. So I'm going to call my nephew about that and be like, what exactly do they do? I mean, can they, increase or decrease the amount of gas that's going to an area? How does that work? Because then when I call, it's not like I have to take their word for it. And what they'll always do is they're like, oh, we'll send a guy to your house. And it's the same guy. And he is a little chauvinistic mansplainer, and I'm like, don't send this guy to my house. Just, I don't want to see him. I do not want to see him. And there's nothing, like every time he comes, he thinks he's going to come in and start tinkling with my boiler and stuff. They're like, oh, I'm going to turn the temperature down on it. No, don't do that. It's set at the temperature that the manufacturer said. And he has messed things up in the past. And so I'm like, no, I don't want this man anywhere near my house. So, I'm sure he knows about the gas meter, but, what's going on inside, just leave it alone, So, anyway, that kind of threw me off yesterday, along with all kinds of weird tech problems. You'd think, Mercury retrograde's over, but you would think that, we would kind of be past this, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. And I just got a confirmation. I didn't realize I had a hair appointment this week, but, well, anyway, my email comes popping in while I'm doing this, but yeah, it was just really odd. When I was trying to copy, because what I do is I will record videos on my phone. Are we still in the shadow? Is what Joanne's asking. Yes, we're actually in post shadow through the 3rd of January. So but you would think that the effects would be lesser at this point. But I ended up. The tarot videos are not up yet because I kept trying to copy them. It was taking an hour to copy one video just from my Photos app to my desktop. And I'm like, why is this taking so long? Because my internet seems to be fine. And Alex says, I've been having a lot of tech issues as well. There's some sort of Uranus-Venus aspect this week. Maybe it's that. Could be. I mean, there's a lot going on. And today we have a Jupiter-Saturn opposition, speaking of. So Jupiter, as we know, and Jupiter's retrograde right now. So Jupiter's the can do, want to expand, want to do it kind of planet, and Saturn is the one that kind of puts the brakes on everything. So with those two in opposition, this has the potential to be a frustrating day for people. So just keep that in mind. Joanne says explains a lot. Yeah, it's kind of but today I got my messages from Azrael this morning, and I got the word that I always love to hear, which is page, which is you need to rest. So I was talking about that on my last. I was doing my Festivus airing of the grievances on my other podcast yesterday, because it just seems like people coming out and making rude comments on my. Well, Joanne, you were on that podcast, or on that live stream, I should say. Yeah, it was just like. There were just some people where I'm just like, where did you come from? Like, great, I have to hunt down a ham because my butcher forgot to write down my Oh, write down your order or something. Prime rib order. Great. Isn't that nice? Speaking of communication problems, right? Right, because now, because if you're celebrating Christmas, that's tomorrow. I have decided that I'm gonna attempt to have as peaceful a day as possible. Obviously, I'm gonna be keeping my eye. I keep watching the thermostat when I go by to make sure it's not going down, but we're not in that extreme cold now, and it is supposed to warm up. So I'm imagining that's not going to be. I hope that's not going to be an issue. And right now, just looking at the snow is very, very pretty. But I've made sure I went out yesterday and got what I needed. I showered early this morning. That's why I'm more dressed than usual. For this morning live stream. Usually I've just rolled out of bed, but I have a little bit more dressed because I wanted to get a shower early, and I'm kind of cleaning the house as I go. I'm going to be getting all the videos uploaded today. I'm going to get these morning coffees. I'm going to download the batch and then put them. I mean, these don't take that long to download and to move over, so I will log in and do that. I finished up with grades yesterday. Hooray, that's done. And I just want to spend the afternoon doing some artwork, doing some writing, and getting some snacks out and stuff. I want to do some wine and cheese in the evening, watch some Christmas things, like we talked about yesterday, and to make my quiche, because I have all the ingredients for that. I picked up the rest of the ingredients for that yesterday. So I'm very excited to be doing that. And I feel you have to finish rearranging my room. I feel you. I have to finish rearranging my room and hunt down some ham. Yeah, and trying to find something on the day before when there's 6 inches of snow out is just going to be, unless you're going to have somebody deliver it, and hopefully they'll actually deliver it if they do. So, yes, at least I'm not the one doing Christmas. I do have to contact my sister because I need to find out if she's doing Christmas, what time she's picking me up for Christmas tomorrow. And also I'm going to contact my neighbors. That's the other thing I'm going to do to see, because I usually do some baking and I'll bring some to them. I used to bring it to multiple neighbors, but now I just bring it to one set of neighbors, and I got their Christmas card the other day, so I will text them and see whether or not they're around today. They may not be. It may be an after Christmas thing. But I just want it to be a no pressure day. The other thing Azrael said to me this morning was, what is it? I think it's Isvarma Ra'as, which I think I'm saying that word right. It's a 3-part word. But basically, or it could be Invarma. I can't remember. I can sort of see it in my head. But it basically means start applying east. So he's kind of giving me the go-ahead to start applying to schools over in England. And I was told to kind of wait on that for a little bit, and now it's just like, no, go ahead and do it. So, so that'll be something I'm doing this week as well. So let's see. So let's do our, let's do a reading for this morning. I'm going to do a couple of them. Christmas Eve kind of reading to see, because I don't have, like I said, I don't have a whole lot to talk about today in terms of any particular topic that's come to mind. But I just feel like I thought the message I got this morning was very nice, because it is actually one of peace and of balance. He said, heaven is balancing. It's divided people and situations, maybe not even people, but I don't know, whatever kind of influences have been creating fear, trying to keep us tied to the past, very chaotic kind of things. It's almost like, no, he kind of said those have been divided, and so we can be happy, because you're going to see how heaven is going to create a balance for things, is exactly the way he put it. And bring balance and peace. So that's a very nice message to receive around the Christmas holiday. Now, it's interesting. Our central card today, it's really funny. I'm talking about taking a rest today, and we get the laziness card, right? It reminds me of a message I got from Phil yesterday. I was talking to him. I mentioned to him every now and again what's going on with the drone situation in New Jersey, which I've kind of stopped talking about because it's like, it's ongoing. We're not getting any answers. It's kind of the same thing. But when he wrote back, he was like, maybe Santa's gotten lazy and he's just actually gonna like airdrop everything. But I thought that was just, because I was telling him, I think I said this somewhere else. I said I was baking some cookies. I said maybe I should leave some out for the drones. Maybe it's actually Santa, right? He's like, yeah, maybe that's it. He's like, maybe he's gotten lazy and he's getting the drones to do it this year. So when I see laziness, that's what I think about. But we got this laziness card. So really what this is the idea that, again, there's our neat little black and white patterns here and the discomfort that's kind of coming up. I think this is the theme. We know that change is coming. And I think that's been one of the things about this season. I mean, when we come to holidays like Christmas or like I said, Hanukkah for some people, whatever else people celebrate, Yule is their thing, Kwanzaa, whatever people are celebrating. There's a sense here that there's a, I don't know. It's like there's a nostalgia for a certain type of feeling or a certain type of security that we want to have that goes along with it. And I think there's this kind of undercurrent here that things are changing and that we're not going to be able to sit in the comfortable place. Like this is supposed to be the guy with his pina colada, right? Like you're not going to be able to sit in the comfortable place for too long, which of course that's the center of the reading here, the idea of that. And this is interesting because the inner feeling of which we are unaware is the courage card, strength. Strength has been coming up a lot. Like we've had that. So we have courage. That's the internal feeling of which we're unaware. As we get kind of hit with one thing, we've been hit with one thing after another. We've had the courage to say, well, I'm going to continue to try to grow and push forward in spite of it. And the external feeling of which we are aware is transformation. It's a death card. There's a change coming, okay? And it's interesting that we have, okay, so if we look at this, I'm not sure I'm doing this quite right, but you have this guy in the middle in between courage and transformation. And so the idea is that, it could also be too that we're just kind of taking a breath here. Agreed. My lawn chair is functionally gone is what Alex is saying. Yeah, it's kind of like we can take a little break, but you have to remember that this transformation is still ongoing. And this is the Nine of Cups. So Nine of Cups is usually a good card. It's a card of satisfaction, right? But it's like, this is not a place where you're going to stay. It's like we have to have courage for changes that are coming. And I don't think it's necessarily that we need to be courageous because things are going to be awful. But I think there's a courage that needs to be because it's just things are going to be different. When I think about, the first time I ever moved to England was in 1993. That was when I was in school. And it's the first time I've ever gone away to school, because when I went to undergrad, I was able to drive to the college where I went, which is actually the college where I work. Well, not university, but where I work now. And so this was my first time away from home. And I don't know, I'm very, very Taurian in the sense that I can't just like pick up and move somewhere. Like I like going to different places, but I'm not, like even when I went this past in 2022 and I stayed for several months, it was like going in, it's like the first time you're there, you just have this feeling of almost, it's not exactly homesickness, but it feels alien to you. It feels different. Even if it's a nice place that you're in, you might feel like that this isn't home somehow. Like now, obviously, we always talk about how home is something that is internal rather than external. I mean, that's really the key. But that's kind of how I was feeling this. I was just like, okay. And that's almost the sense that I'm getting of this. Joanne says, see, that's where my Gemini kicks in. I'm like a gypsy. Well, it's, yeah. And I mean, it's great that because Gemini, you'll definitely have that traveling thing. Now, I am a Gemini ascendant in Vedic astrology, though I am a Cancer ascendant in Western astrology. So, I don't know. I tend to be I tend to get very attached to places, I guess, is what it is. And so even though I want to move to a new place, it's like there's that weirdness that comes along with it. So that's kind of the vibe that I get from this, is almost like the sense of, and we're not necessarily talking about physical moves here. We're just talking about we may be moving into a new place, doing a new thing, taking a risk, trying to do something different. But it's like we want to be comfortable. We want to be comfortable where we are. And the universe is like trying to push us to go along with this change, because they're saying, okay, yes, you like where you are now. And I think it's always good to be in the present and to like where you are in the present. I think that's always a great thing. But at the same time, it's like, but there could be something better. Or there could be that we're moving into a space where, yes, the process of changing feels uncomfortable. And is that another woodpecker up on the tree? Like, I'm just watching, there's this bird in the snow that's appeared. I've actually had 2 foxes and a deer appear this morning in front of my house. 2 of them that ran across the neighbor's lawn, and I wanted to get my phone to try to grab a picture of them, but they were too fast. And then all of a sudden I was doing something, and then this deer just suddenly, just like with snow on her back, she just kind of walks past. I was like, okay. But now there's this little bird here, and it looks to me, just judging from its head, the size and the shape of its head, that's a, oh, yay, you're saying. Yes. That's what Joanne's saying. Yeah, I think this is another woodpecker. I had posted a picture to Facebook of this big pileated woodpecker who was hanging on this tiny little twig the other day. He had his head back. He was trying to get it something in there. But yeah, and it's funny because I think woodpeckers are birds of transformation. So speaking of kind of our nature omens, right? There's definitely this sense of change. So what is it telling us to do? To stop fighting? Okay, there's still a sense of fighting that's going on. There's still, because we're like, well, I get, Joanne, actually, when you always talk about the blanket fort, right? It's just kind of like, look, I just want to like curl up and like, please don't bother me with all this stuff right now. What's that Radiohead song? No alarms and no surprises, please. There's times when I find myself, that song coming into my head a lot. We all just kind of want to be in a quiet place. And, maybe for the moment we can be. But it's just that things are changing substantially. The astrology of next year is going to be, I don't even know, we don't know how to predict it. And Joanne, yep, leave me alone, respect the bubble, right? Yeah, it's like, I don't know, we just trying to be in this place where we're, I don't know, we want to be comfortable, but a lot of things are going to be different. And that difference isn't necessarily bad, but oftentimes in order to get comfortable in the new space, there's a certain amount of struggle. And Alex is saying a whole new time astrologically. Right, because what we've had for the last, I don't know how many years we're talking, but we've kind of been in a water and earth kind of paradigm, I guess you could say, astrologically. It's been, Pluto in Capricorn. There's been, we've had the nodal axes have been Aries, Libra, that is air, fire. But there's been, Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. Joanne says I'm over it. There's this kind of thing that's going on. But next year, everything's moving towards a fire and air paradigm. Like, that's going to be the shift. Pluto's in Aquarius now. Now we have Neptune is going to move into Aries. Saturn's going to move into Aries. Uranus is going to, at least temporarily, move into Gemini. So it's moving out of the earth space. Everything's moving into this fire and air space. And that's a whole different way of doing things. And if we've been kind of comfortable with our mushy kind of earth way of doing things, this could be something that is, that really, I think it's just shaking up the way things are, getting rid of, Pluto exposes the shadow side of what hasn't been working. And now it's just kind of like, okay, but there's going to be some resistance to the new way. Now, Joanne is saying, you wouldn't know what they wrote on Dr. Jeremy's post yesterday by what they wrote on, you were talking about those anti-Semitic posts, which is really horrible. That's what I mean. I don't know what it's like the group is out in force lately. But, and that may be part of the fighting that people were seeing. I mean, we may be fighting things not intentionally, but I think a lot of us, at least consciously, are like, no, we want to make a change. Unconsciously, there may be part of us that's like, I just kind of want to go back to when it was like this. And I think there's a change. But yeah, it sounds like it was, that was really horrible. Like I said, I'm not going to complain about the 3 comments I got that were just like weird. Although I did and I could. That's just really horrible. And somebody, and these kind of people are emboldened, Alex says that checks out though. There's so much grappling for the past, even if it's awful. Right, because it's that old devil right? It's well, it may be awful, but at least I know how to cope with this. I know what to do about this. When we're in a new space and we're like, okay, this is new, I don't know what to do with this. Or, but again, the new space, there's going to be a lot that's good about the new space. So what it's telling us to do, our outcome of this reading, is Eight of Pentacles. It's the ordinariness card. So again, just be ordinary. Just focus on what you have to do day to day, and try not to get too far ahead. Because when the mind gets involved and starts seeing things going on and saying, oh, this means this and this means that, and then this is going to happen and that's going to happen and I have to prepare this way and I have to do this and that. And we don't know. I don't know that, okay, even understanding that maybe some things are not going to be changing in a good way. Joanne says, that devil should have stayed buried after World War II. Well, yeah, yes, 100%. But that particular group of people are quite emboldened right now, and they feel like they've been given a license to behave that way. So yeah, that's a problem. That is most definitely. Totally agree that is something that should have been over. But the fact that it's come up again, it's like, okay, well now we have to go back and fight it again. Because clearly there's something about it that's not over. There's some part of the weed that's still, you know how it is, like you weed a whole place and everything's gone, but somehow one little seed got there, and the next thing you know, they pop up again. They destroyed that park in Montauk, is what you were saying. Yeah, there's a lot of hate out there right now. Oh, good morning. But so, yeah, there's no question. And I think that's part of the reason that we want to feel comfortable. We want to find a space where we don't, where we're not dealing with hate, where everybody is peaceful, where everybody is behaving, like you would think civilized, decent human beings would behave. At least respectful towards each other, whether people always agree with certain things or not. I think probably in the case of what was happening with Dr. Jeremy, probably the people's very strong attitudes about the war in Israel and Palestine might unfortunately play a role, because there's a lot of people who are anti like what Netanyahu's doing and so forth, which really should have nothing to do with the rest of the Jewish people whatsoever, because there's a lot of Jewish people who don't like Netanyahu either. It's not a it's a really. Right now, everything is, that there's a lot of tension out there, so that the only thing that we can do is to stop. Well, when we say fighting, it's a case of, again, picking your battles. I don't want to necessarily say that there's always a time. I was thinking about that this morning. Like, when are you going to fight for something? If you're tired, a lot of times we're tired and don't want to fight. But I thought, like, well, if somebody had, I don't know, like, let's say somebody's child was in danger, was about to get swept away by a river or something. I mean, you wouldn't just be like, oh, well, you had a good run, he's 8 years old or whatever, I don't have any kids, I'm just making up a number. But I guess he had a good run. I'm too tired to rescue him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't have that attitude. Like, there's things that you're going to fight for. You're going to find the extra oomph to fight for, And then there's other things that you're just going to be like, this just isn't worth my energy. But nonetheless, I mean, and again, if we're trying to move towards a heart opening, all the ugliness comes out. That's one of the things, like I know Rouhani's talking very individually rather than collectively, but one of the things about it, as I've always said, is like it really can open. And he says, I don't know, 150 messages of hate is excessive. Well, it is. We're talking about something collective that's going on here, but there's something, but that's what I mean. There's a whole lot of this kind of purging, so it's kind of like we have to find our own center in the middle of all of that. And we have to respond accordingly, depending on the situation. If we're, and Alex says, you need to express the poison out before the healing can begin. Right, exactly. If somebody knows that you have something growing in you, a tumor growing in you, it needs to be, to keep it from spreading, you need to cut it out, right? But even after you cut it out and you release the poison, there's still a whole process of healing that has to happen around that. So it doesn't just go away right away. And not that I condone hate whatsoever. Oh, no, exactly. Well, no, exactly. None of us are sitting here saying, well, this is a good thing. But the thing is, that's the scary side of like where Pluto is and where Uranus is and all these different things. It's showing you where the weak spots are. It's showing you where you're divided, where there's that kind of hate and so forth. And good morning. So this is definitely there's a lot of, this is certainly, we are definitely on the precipice of something new, whatever that's going to turn out to be. And whenever you move into a new space, there is going to be resistance, there's going to be hatred, there's going to be anger, there's going to be, because we have lived in a paradigm, we have moved into a space where everybody is divided. You're either on my side or you're against me. You're with us or you're against us, that kind of thing. And I feel like we need to move into a space where that's, I think part of the reason I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of like been Alan Watts, like month, week, year, I don't know, because I feel like with Alan Watts, it's like he's kind of saying, he's reminding us that, look, the separateness is actually an illusion. Everybody is we're all part of the same system. And when everybody starts acting like, well, this person's worthy and that one isn't, my guru, what she always used to say was that she said if you have somebody who says, well, I'm going to pray for this, if the Swami comes to the house to do prayers and they say, well, yes, pray for our family and for everybody, but not those people because they're bad. And the Swami would be like, well, you're all part of the same system. I can't, you pray for everybody, The prayer is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It's the prayer of may there be peace and happiness in the three worlds, which is what they talk about. And so, sorry, I'm just trying to get another reading going here with the astrology cards. So yeah, I mean but it's because we are so embedded in this illusion of separateness and trying to get people to believe. For people to get out of their attitudes of operating from hate and wounding and hurt, it's not a process that happens overnight. We just can't wake up and say, you know what, I'm operating from my wounds, so I'm just going to stop doing that. I mean, because I said, the intellect is actually very weak when it comes to that. Do you ever have a thing where you continually repeat something to yourself and it's kind of like whistling in the graveyard? You're just doing it to try to convince yourself that this is how you feel, but it isn't actually how you feel. Like, I'm not scared. Well, yeah, we are a lot of times, and oh my, okay. All right, so here's our follow-up reading here. Okay, so it's interesting. Our first card is the first house card. This is the card of the body. This is the card of taking care of yourself, first of all. But one interesting thing I am seeing when I'm doing readings, like I did the Libra through Pisces readings this week, and I'm going to, like I said, those will be posted this morning because of tech problems I had yesterday. First house is also the house of Aries, okay? This is the house of the body. This is the house of the identity. And one of the things I'm seeing in my readings is that there's a lot of like Neptunian stuff in the first house. Like, I don't know who I am anymore. Things are changing. It could be that people don't identify as much. I think I posted a video to somebody, I sent it to somebody about what happens when things don't feel fun anymore. When the things that used to make you happy or the people or whatever, like there's certain situations where you're like, it's just not the same. And so we feel a sense of loss. We feel a depression about that. And I think this is why some people start to really long for the past. Like, oh, remember the days when everything was great. You know what I mean? Or at least they perceived it as great, whether it really was or not. But this first house energy here is saying, we need to focus on what's going on with ourselves. As I've said before, if you don't have self-love, and self-love is not narcissism. Self-love means that you feel pretty solid in who you are and your decisions. Even if you make mistakes, it's okay. Not everybody gets everything right. You wanna be centered in and feel a basic sense of trust in yourself and a basic sense of respect for yourself. And most of us don't have that because we're not raised with it. We're raised like we should always like never trust ourselves. Don't trust your own instincts. No, you have to learn this and learn that. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's certain things we have to learn to function in society, but But a lot of times we're just taught in the process of that to not listen to ourselves. So there's definitely a sense of getting back to the self. And that's what I think is interesting with both Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries next year. It's like Neptune is kind of like, okay, it's more imaginative. It's more about feeling. It's more about getting back to our intuition, our instinct. But with Saturn, it's also, what are you going to do to take what you're feeling to manifest it, or to manifest change, right? And in the environment, we've got the Cancer card, Cancer, I feel. It's just talking about feeling, right? Because Cancer has to do with the moon. It can have, for some people, it can have to do with family. It's fourth house stuff, right? It could be us with respect to family patterns, or ancestral patterns more generally. If we're talking about the collective, what kinds of things have we inherited, right? And this is also very much deep about deep emotion, about the way we feel about things. We were just talking about like feelings that are coming up, the way in which we are trying to redefine kind of who we are and where we're at. Now, what we're not seeing here, the card of what you don't see, position of what you don't see, is Capricorn. Okay, so there's the Saturn influence. And that's what a lot of times what it is. If we think like, okay, we're moving into a new space, a new world, yay, great. But this is saying, well, but there's still work to be done. I mean, what Joanne was talking about with all those comments, there's still work to be done here. This is not something that's just magically gone away overnight because the astrology's changed, right? There's still work to be done to try to figure out how we are going to heal that divide. There's still a lot of work. And some of that work, Capricorn, is plodding, persistent, gradual. It's not fast. And those of us who are extremely impatient hate that. It's just kind of like, okay, this is an uncomfortable space and I want to get out of it as fast as possible. But everything comes when it's its time, right? So what is it that you need to do? Taurus energy, right? And what's Taurus? Taurus says you will own it. So Taurus is about focusing on your own security, maybe focusing on your finances, maybe focusing on just what's practical. What are the practical things you can do? Again, it's like the ordinariness card, right? That's 8 of Pentacles. Ordinariness, just being ordinary, just focusing on what you need to feel secure, and also what your values are. Remember, we've been talking a lot too about what is the value of money? What is the value of, are our whole lives just about accumulating as much money as possible? How much do we really need? And what else is there of value that is not just about, how much money you have in the bank? Because strictly speaking, okay, I'm not suggesting this is necessarily going to happen, but, there has been talk with Pluto and Aquarius that we're moving into a space where our economic systems could change drastically. And think about it. We rely a lot on the fact that the dollar is the world standard for, the fact that we do that is what gives our currency value. By itself, it has no value. That was one thing Alan Watts had said. He said, if you had a crisis where all of the, none of the money in the world is worth anything anymore, you can't eat your dollar bills. Any more than you can, if you're hungry, that you can eat a menu just because it has the names of the food or pictures of the food on it. Like, you can't do that. Good morning, Suda. We're just getting through the end of our readings here. It's interesting. So just a very quick recap. First house, Aries energy, focusing on the self, focusing on feelings, ancestral patterns. Still work to be done. We've got Capricorn. So we've just kind of get down to business, get down to earth, grounded, focus on doing the work. Good morning. Woke up late this morning. Oh, you know what? I don't blame you. It's like it's snowy out. I mean, it's really pretty. If you have to go anywhere, then ew, but it's just like, unless you like driving in the snow, there's some people who like that. But it's definitely a very wintry kind of morning out there. But yeah, we've got this Taurus energy. That's the advice that they have. So I feel like that's like, we got the ordinariness card in our other reading. And that's saying, rather than fighting with things, you just put one foot in front of the other, basically. And our outcome, revolution, solar eclipse card. Now, this means there's substantial change ahead. So it's saying the best way to prepare for the substantial change ahead. Again, whatever that is. And it's not necessarily saying that substantial change is negative. It could be something that initially feels negative. but you may see eventually what the method is to the madness, so to speak, like where it's taking us or where it's going. And I think this is saying, as things are going to change drastically, again, what's going to happen politically in this country, or with what's going on in the wars in the world, or whatever, or like I said, I was talking about the economic systems. If that were to change overnight, that could potentially be cataclysmic for some people. Or maybe for a lot of people. Like, I think about when North Korea, I forget what happened, but all of a sudden, like, all their currency was devalued and all their life savings became worthless, And maybe, I don't know. They say that in this kind of a period of time that sometimes there is a shift in economic systems, but hopefully it's a good shift, you know what I mean? Something that maybe initially is chaotic, but that eventually puts everybody in a good place. Like, if you're going to move towards, I don't know, something like universal basic income or something. I know I sound really socialist, right? But it's just, I don't know, towards ideas about money where it's not like 1% of the people have all the wealth and the rest of us are struggling. I just don't feel like that's a situation that's going to hold. How that's going to change? Don't know. Don't have a clue. But, they're here to pick up the recycling, if you can hear a little beeping outside. But yeah, so I don't know. So basically, I think the message that we're getting here for Christmas Eve, I've gotten some very nice ones where they're saying, there's balance that's occurring. We should be happy because whatever, like I said, the Azrael messages this morning were kind of like, there's a certain amount of success, as he put it, like heaven has managed to create a certain kind of a balance. Now, because it's created in the celestial realm doesn't necessarily mean we feel it here right away. But we do seem to be moving towards something, but there's always this space where it's almost like we're pioneering. We're doing something new. We're doing something a different way, and there's going to be fighting and resistance to that because human beings as a group tend to not want to do something a new way. There was a book I read, it was Lero's book on Earth Spirits to Sky Gods, I think it was called. It was a sociological work. And I remember the author saying, yeah, like when you look through human history, when there has been something on the horizon, like where a big change is required, humanity as a rule, even thousands of years ago, tended to always be like, well, let's just go with the quick fix and let our kids worry about it. That's always been the way of humanity. And that may not be a thing that we can do. We may not be able to just, pass the buck this time, So the last thing I'll do is I have my runes here, so let's do a rune reading and see what comes up for our runes. Yeah, our first rune is Fehu, which is a rune of abundance. Okay, we got Perth, we have Soelu, and what's our last one? Awas. Okay, yeah, almost the same message here. Okay. So, Fehu is about what do you value? What are your values? What do you value? What represents abundance for you, right? And sometimes it's a good omen that abundance is coming in, but you have it with Perth. So the machinations or the changes around that are unknowable. Like the unknowable is in operation. The mystery is in operation. If we go back to Emmett Otter yesterday, right? Like they have no money, they risk everything, they lose it, but then all of a sudden something changes, right? And then they're able to, they're able to regain their stability or their footing, but not in the way they expected, right? So, So anyway, it's that idea that we end up in a different place and not necessarily in the way we're expecting or envisioning. We may look at things and say, oh, okay, obviously this is going to happen this way. And this is saying, may not be so obvious. There may be things it's like, whoa, I totally didn't see that coming. Which is why it's just telling you, focus one day at a time. Plodding along one day at a time, being ordinary. Because there's going to be a clarity coming soon. Okay? But that clarity also means, with Awas, that this is about, this is avertive powers. So this is about averting stress. And it says, there's no need to hasten towards an outcome. Don't, wait for the well to fill up with water. Like, there's going to be a certain amount of patience. That's the Capricorn energy that we saw. There's going to be a certain amount of plodding and patience. So that's just I think that's just the message for Christmas time. I think we are. Azrael's messages are very positive about moving towards peace and balance. That certain things that have been creating imbalance, he says, how did he put it? I forget what the word balance is. I think it's, is it Piop? It's like, it was Oron Peripson Piop or something like that. It was something like see how heaven balances things. So I think everything's going to be good, but it's just saying for right now, in the midst of what's a lot of chaos, and I know Joanne was talking about that before. We need to find, just right now, the way to find balance is to just, put one foot in front of the other, so to speak. So anyway, that's it for me. I will not be live streaming tomorrow because it is Christmas Day, and I just want to, I'm sure everybody here is going to be busy with family things or just whatever it is you normally do. So I'm going to take tomorrow off, and I will be back on Thursday the 26th. I will continue to live stream, even though I'm going to not be doing too much of anything else. I mean, I will be open for client appointments, and obviously I have the readings if people want to get annual readings and so forth, or still want to get gift cards for people for readings. That's still available. Gift cards are going to be at the reduced rate until the 31st of December, and I'll be offering annual readings through the end of January, and those are $50 off what I usually charge. So so definitely if you want to check those out. Merry Christmas. Yes, same to you. Thanks, and lovely ladies. Merry Christmas. Everybody have, enjoy the holidays. And I think it's Hanukkah starts tomorrow too. So those of you who are Jewish, happy Hanukkah as well. So everybody have a wonderful holiday, and I will see you all again on Thursday. And I will post about new times before then. So, so take care. Enjoy.